Okay, welcome. My name is Heidi Wake.
No,
Oh, if people can mute, go ahead and mute. That would be wonderful. And shall I go ahead and start with the preamble?
Yeah.
Great. So welcome to the July meeting of the Open Space and Recreation Committee in Gloucester, Massachusetts. This meeting is being recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the Open Space and Recreation Committee during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raise hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during public comment to be recognized to speak. In the event, persons who wish to do so are invited to view the meeting at web address follows. In the event that a live transmission proves unworkable for any reason, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the meeting will be made available on the city's website as soon as possible. Thank you. And if I can do a
Roll call.
roll call. Oh, and I see, great, excellent. So member Mann. Noel Mann.
here.
Great, thanks, Noel. Member Dan Morris.
Present.
Member Mark Poulin.
Present.
Member Dave Sargent. I see that you're here, but on the attendees, so.
Oh, okay. I can promote him in.
Okay, great. Member Anastasia Murphy.
Present.
Great. And also in attendance is Greg Catamatori from the Planning Department for City of Gloucester. Okay, with no further ado, Noel, your hand is raised. Do you need to lower it, or is that?
Well, I do have a question. I've been trying to get a copy of the agenda and it's not on the government website that I can find.
Yeah, it's attached to the calendar event.
Uh-huh.
And are you able to see us?
Yes.
Okay. So we're displaying the agenda right now as well.
Yes, I have
Yep.
it,
Okay.
but I like to have it in advance.
Okay, Noel, I'm happy to help you with that, with like accessing that, not during this meeting, just to give you a little run through of how to find, like, did you not receive, like getting it through your email or on the website, you said, the city website?
Either.
Okay.
Nothing worked.
Yeah, okay. I do see public comment is the second item on our agenda. And so I would noting that there are 3 attendees here, limiting the comment period to 5, or personal comments to 3 minutes. That would be requested. If at any time or during this time, any of our attendees would like to be heard, I invite you to indicate so right now or at this time. Okay. Well, thank you for your presence here at our meeting today. And I think we're going to jump right in. I also want to acknowledge Gemma from the City of Gloucester as well, that she is here. So welcome, Gemma. Our first item of business is the open space mapping. And there's not a name next to that, but I'm hoping that Greg or Gemma.
Sure. Yeah.
Like to take
So, yeah, so we reached out to the committee and let you know that, we've made some real significant progress since the last time we've met on the open space inventory maps. For those of you that either were involved in the last effort, there's a lot more detail and information that was requested from the state to kind of round out the open space inventory. And when we speak of open space inventory, it's not just the spaces that we know as public parks and beaches and those types of places, but also areas that might have an opportunity as potential open space. So it really is kind of a fine-tooth combing of all the properties. There's a very distinct methodology that's outlined by the state in their open space planners workbook, and Gemma has done an excellent job of doing a lot of the first passing with the various data sources that we have access to. This inventory and other mapping products that will be a part of this process will differ greatly from what the state believes are open spaces that are in some way protected or have some jurisdiction that limits activity on them. So I think that's really going to be something important, for not only for the committee, but also for the public to understand, what is protected open space, what's potential open space, and what's, lands that are currently forested or have limited development or activity on them that are not as well protected. So I think that's the clarity that I think will be very helpful in the discussion about setting priorities. And as there's certainly been events in the last year, there also is the ability to potentially change the status of open space protection. So that's, I think, really important for people to understand. I think that was also, some of the questions and comments that we got at the first open space forum, with people wanting to have a better understanding of what is protected and what's not. And that's really, some of the baseline for, how we can develop a plan going forward with understanding that. So Gemma had sent a link to folks. I hope you were able to view them. She's also here and can answer questions about, the process, or we can put one up if you wanted to look at anything in particular. But, definitely take the time to have a look. And again, this is just one product. The next thing that we're going to be working on is that, more defined map that identifies what's restricted and what's not, which will be a subset of what's on that map right now. So I can leave it at that for questions for me or for Gemma.
And I would just say, did people have a chance to look at that? It's quite amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I took a look at it. Can I make a few comments?
Now, is that a good? I feel like now is a good time to do that.
Yeah, and this won't be the first opportunity, but yes, initial impressions or areas of that of that that need a closer look. Obviously there's definitely the other thing that we also identified is there are a number of parcels that really lack kind of any information that we're working on with the assessors department to try to fill in some of those gaps as well.
Yeah, this is Dave Sargent. There definitely was a lot of information on the map, and I really enjoyed looking at that, but it was difficult orienting myself without bodies of water, such as Haskell's Reservoir wasn't on there, or Sleepy Hollow Pond or West Pond or the quarries. But if they were on there, it would be a lot easier to figure out where we are, for me at least. And there were two duplications that I don't think were appropriate. One, it says Boynton's Island, and the other was Castle View Drive. And both of those, the northern ones, shouldn't be there. Some sort of digital whiteout should probably take place, with those duplications. But beyond that, there was an awful lot of information.
Dave, you said Castle View Drive, and what was the one before that?
Boynton Island.
Thanks.
I just did the rookie move and spoke without unmuting myself. And Dave, we certainly can do that. Like you said, there's a lot of information, and one of the approaches was, to try to give each parcel a reference so that if there's something in particular, we can go by the assessor's map and lot. And to the extent that sometimes if, and we might be able to do it with kind of like a shading or an outline of a sort to kind of continue to orient. So yeah, there's a lot going on that map. Again, it's really, it's actually one that we will be kind of dissolving down when it gets into the final plan, but it's kind of got this kind of range of legending to just really to be used as that kind of draft product for people to take a closer look at and comment on. So we could certainly, I'm signing Gemma up. We could certainly make another iteration of it that has a little bit more, grounding with some local landmarks.
Thank you.
Well, and yes, lots of overlays.
Yeah, that's for sure. A lot of overlays. So much, and so much information. That's really what I noticed. So much information. Any other comments or questions about that information?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you. I guess just thinking about the plan, I think the idea is that, we usually think of a plan as a paper document. I know increasingly we're using electronic documents, but this seems like it will not just be a document, but it'll be a kind of an active app that is going to have to be, scalable. And will that be a supplement to our, like we'll have an electronic supplement to our final plan? Is that the idea?
So I think, for this to be a really useful tool, as part of the mapping requirements in the plan, there are other very more kind of generalized landscape, topography, wetlands, bodies of water, as Dave pointed out. I envision that, we will basically adapt what we have as kind of, there's very few users like Gemma, myself, and a few others in the city that use the software to develop these maps. But we would probably hope, the intention would be to make that layers that would be available through the city's online GIS, so that you can kind of get a really good handle on the different types of open spaces that are available for recreation or are preserved. And then, so I see that as the digital product that, again, will continue to be refined. There are things that occur on a very regular basis, like with Essex County Greenbelt. They're actually on another agenda in about 15 minutes at P&D, where they are securing another conservation restriction on a property in West Gloucester. So as they update their information, it's kind of a living, GIS database that we'll have access to, and we can kind of update periodically. Not all these open spaces are open to the public. I think that's another really good thing to make people aware of as to where they can go and access and kind of see that all in one place.
Yes, in that context, I think something better than a state to identify what's private, even if it has a conservation restriction on it. A state sounds so grand.
Oh, okay, yeah, and Noel's. We did have an opportunity to meet with Noel last week, and so one of the things that we kind of also thought was useful, and potentially again creating opportunities, and we see this happen all the time. Is again, there are large parcels with maybe one or two structures on it. And there's a conservation interest in the land for a variety of reasons, whether it's resources or potentially open space access, that sometimes would kind of sift through the typical process of looking at open space potential. So we can, there was basically a screening tool, and Gemma can describe this as well, where if there was a property that had a structure on it that was only a certain percentage of a property, so really it was dominated by land with very little development on it, it was included in what was called like an estate opportunity. We can label that whatever we want. We can come up with some other nomenclature for what those potentials might be.
Yes. Yeah, there's something else I wanted to, never mind. The actual listing of properties, having access to the entire, to the other software, the listing software would be very useful, because the way you can switch back and forth from the map to the property in question is very valuable.
I'm not familiar. Greg, you want to take that or respond to that?
Again, it's a little bit challenging, and Gemma can speak to this. So the interactive ability right now is really with kind of the proprietary software. So the tools that anyone can use right now are really our online GIS system, and then kind of this static map. We probably can get to a point of a listing. It's a very dense database that has a lot of fields in it, but there might be a way that we can try to condense that a little bit so that you can kind of see both. Like if you have the identifier of map and lot, for instance, that's what we often use in the city to kind of go back and forth between a map and other information like assessing information and that type of thing. We might be able to do that as well. The challenge with a lot of this, as we will then eventually be also providing some of this information in the form of layers to MAPC, because they also have, kind of the ones that are going to be involved in the plan itself that are required. They'll be using this open space layer as kind of an overlay to kind of show how it relates to soil conditions, topography, wetland resources, that type of thing. So it's like we have to get to a point where we're really confident that we're kind of almost there, and then we can start doing these, potentially kind of releasing more information for people to take a closer look at things. Because it's just every time you iterate, Gemma has to do a lot of work.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to add something to that, Gemma.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
well, I just want to say that the problem is that there are just so many lots. The way they're organized is not very conducive to comparing the map to the paper lot and its description. Very
Yeah,
difficult.
the other thing that we can do, which I think we had talked about from the beginning, but it takes a lot of time to arrange it this way. And since this is kind of a living document at this point, we haven't really pinned things down. Once we have received some feedback, we have a little bit more of a solid database. We can also do these maps by, say, ward. So you have a little bit of a smaller bite-sized piece to look at.
That would be very
and
useful.
it would be, paper and smaller pieces, but it's just kind of labor intensive to set the maps up that way. And at this phase where we're continuously updating individual parcels, it was a little easier to kind of have everything in one place.
Well, when you say you're updating parcels, what changes are you making? Are you determining what you think is protected and what is not, and level of protection and things of that nature?
Yeah, so we're first of all kind of getting your feedback. When you came in, there was a couple things we had noticed about parcels on just the current classifications of open space, city-owned open space, private open space. So making adjustments there, although I think we're pretty close to we're very close to having a good data set. And then sort of the next step would be to add a variable, which would be level of protection, and those things would kind of layer, right? So you could say, city-owned open space with a conservation restriction versus city-owned open space without a conservation restriction.
Is there any city-owned space at all with a conservation restriction on it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe there are a few where there's kind of scenarios where the city has funded green belts, but yet the Conservation Commission holds a restriction. And then there are some others, I believe, that are city controlled with a nonprofit restriction on them as well. So there are a couple of
I'd like,
starting to rank.
I'd like you to name those.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we get to the level of protection map, we'll have some more information on those types of things, when it's restricted, when it's held outright in fee for conservation purpose and that type of thing. I think the other updating aspect also, that we're kind of referring to is we do have a certain number of properties that have very limited information in the shape file that we have of all the parcels. There are a few that you click on them that have very little data at all. And that's some of the information that we're trying to backfill with working through the assessor's department. They typically have deed reference and information on most parcels. And if there are a few that don't, I can clearly identify that as a good priority for, a priority action for the plan. It may take, getting a title attorney and really kind of digging in and trying to do the research to find out, why it has such limited information available. But I think there's a few of them that will be able to work with the assessors to kind of flesh out ownership or potential if they're restricted in any way.
Any other questions or comments about this very exciting addition to our treasure trove, if you will, of resources?
Looking forward to the next step.
Thank you for your help. I want to recognize Noelle for her institutional knowledge as well as her current work that she's put in on behalf of the committee. So thank you, Noelle. And anybody, I don't know if somebody else participated in that, Mark. I just know that Noelle was name dropped. So I want to acknowledge that.
No, I did not. And I don't remember receiving a link to it.
So you haven't seen, you have not seen it?
I have not had a chance to look at it yet.
Okay, great. Well, we'll make sure that you do. Yeah.
I'd like
We
to,
will we will certainly resend that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, maybe we can get together with Adrian and have a session.
Okay. Yeah, it's just understanding what the next steps are and what the actions are, right?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mark, for speaking up about that. I do have the agenda in front of me. I just need to move a window. The next item is, of course, I believe our survey number 2 and outreach, which I believe will lead into the revised schedule. But survey number 2 and outreach is ready to go. We should have all received an email from Courtney within the last few days. I can't remember the date, with a link with permission and or encouragement to share it widely on our own social media, with using the the Excel spreadsheet of other groups to do targeted outreach. I guess it's open for it is open for 4 weeks. So it's been suggested that 2 weeks, not long enough. And we want to get as much input as possible, knowing that there's a lot of input and then it kind of wanes, but perhaps with renewed enthusiasm and vigor and with targeted outreach through our membership and through the city, we can get, I don't know if we have a goal of how many we want back, but I was trying to think maybe we should come up with something, or is that part of the process? But Greg, feel free to step in.
I hope it's hundreds. I mean, I think, we got a pretty good response on the first one. And so I was just discussing this with Jill Cahill this afternoon. So our intention is to try to go to the city council meeting next week, to plug it there and start the social media kind of campaign through the city's Facebook page. We can do a blast to all boards, committees, commissions, and I think we have that pretty extensive contact list from outreach. So we can kind of do like a big blind copy of that, so everybody doesn't get it.
Yeah,
50,
some of the
50, 60 people on.
nonprofits as well.
Yeah, so definitely, identified was the Y and other nonprofits, anybody that has recreational programs. So I think, again, we can certainly draft something with that kind of intro that MAPC kind of put on it, spread that widely. And I think, I really feel like, going through, just all the boards, committees, and commissions members is a pretty hefty list, as well as we can also do an all hands to city employees and school employees. And then I'll also, I will reach out to superintendent to see whether there's other distribution that we can do through the schools. Because I think that would be, and that's one of the things that we had talked about at the last meeting of really trying to engage youth as well in participating in this.
I was just thinking like pediatricians' offices, or like I mean, I feel like that there was zero participation or zero responses from youth. That was really glaring to me as an educator. And also I think we do have, with the 4 weeks, a lot more time to make sure people have a chance to get to it. And I'm willing to join you at the city council meeting, if that's helpful, or just be another.
No, that'd be great.
another
I mean,
face on the screen.
that would be good.
Yeah. In my mind, I envisioned us at the city hall, and I was like, oh wait, I forgot.
No, it'll be just like this for a little while longer.
Yeah. So comments or questions about the time frame, or the Mark.
Hi, yeah, so there was a sign-up sheet, spreadsheet. I put in my name in a couple spots. I know Liam did as well. It might be helpful if we start, I'll take a few so we don't overlap maybe. But are we allowed to use, in terms of like printing out flyers or like color flyers, my printer's not doing so well. Can we use any city resources at the office or something to get?
Oh, we definitely could.
Okay, yeah, try to
We could
get
definitely do that.
some flyers out and things like that. I've already hit up Fisherman Youth Soccer. I know they're starting a lot of summer programs. I want to hit up Gloucester Little League while everybody's checking their website, because the 11-year-olds are in Williamsport, right? So right now it's critical time for Gloucester Little League, because there's a lot of playoffs and things going on. So with Williamsport and stuff, so a lot of people checking the website right there. So Will Higgins, I think, is the admin for that. So I'll reach out to him as well next.
Is that a live document? Is that a live document that we can add to? Like if we come up
Yes,
with.
it's a share, yeah, it's a SharePoint spreadsheet.
Great, thank you.
Sent last week.
And I also just want to acknowledge that I saw you had signed up for things, and Liam as well. So thank you for that. And it's helpful.
I just don't know how old the contact information that's in there looks like. It could be old, like some old, old coordinators of things, or old, like, I don't know if that's left over from the last planning session,
Yeah.
So don't take it with a grain of salt, I guess, some of the contact information, or you might get some kickback websites or something,
Yeah, and I think the other thing that can't hurt is if we do a blast and members know somebody in particular, keep resharing it. I'd rather have somebody get 3 emails asking them to
Yeah.
to respond to something than missing out.
Yeah.
Should we put out a goal for how many we want, how many responses we want? How many do you think we can get? I have a number in my head.
1,000.
That's lofty. I like it.
Mine is 500. Anybody else want to weigh in? Mark, Dave?
I like 1,000.
How about 29,000?
Yes, the babies. The babies. Although there is the point of non-residents, like there, people that don't live here can fill this out because they work here, because they play here, because they care about it deeply. And maybe they live in Rockport, but they
Right.
care about, so I just want to acknowledge that that is also going to happen. But my understanding is that the data changes, or the results are filtered by Gloucester residents. Is that correct, Greg? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the fields that you have to fill out. So there's a lot of opportunity to kind of screen it in
Yeah.
multiple
Well,
ways. And
Yeah,
I've already filled it out. It doesn't take that long.
great,
right.
great. Yeah,
It was like
And-
less than 15 minutes.
yeah. And I'm sure a lot of it is, I have not looked at it. I'm just back from vacation, but diving right into the conference and yeah, all kinds of stuff. But I'm glad to hear that it doesn't take long, and I'm guessing it's similar to survey number 1.
It was, yeah, except it's got
Very.
nice pictures. It's got the pictures are all added in
Yep.
and
Yeah, yeah,
and free fields. There's a few free fields to put things in. Yeah.
yeah. Any other comments or clarifications needed about that? Either the spreadsheet with organizations and contacts, signing yourselves up for what you know, who you're responsible for, or who we can count on you, and who you're responsible for reaching out to. I think that's a helpful tool for giving people a job, and also for clarifying who's getting what. I see Dan's hand is raised, so. Dan Morris.
Yes, hi, thank you. I wanted to just confirm that the survey is fixed and live at this moment. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think when it was distributed, it was live to test. So it can be filled out right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Maybe this is not the right time to bring this up, so I asked the chair to just redirect me if necessary. We talked about engagement with, or rather reaching out to the committees, the boards, the councils, and such, and asking them to fill out the survey. The survey asked at a very personal level, you as someone who cares about Gloucester or lives in Gloucester, what do you think? What are your, what parks do you value? What do you value about them? And, how can they be better, and those sorts of things. I had, it's been some time ago, I sent an email just proposing the idea of engaging more at an institutional level. And so I don't know if this is a time to, because we're talking about engagement related to the survey, or in support of the plan, is this an okay time to talk about that particular topic, or should I come on under other business?
I think that this is very relevant, and I'm happy to entertain, or I'm happy to bring this part of the discussion, because I think it needs teasing out, and or it's an important piece of the conversation and our identity and our role here in the city. And I think it also leads, frankly, into the social media discussion, about how to share things on social media officially and or personally. So
Okay. So if I may, I'll pitch the idea and for your consideration. And I have to begin with an apology. I was traveling and I missed the last two meetings. And so perhaps this is business that has been covered before. And again, I don't want to take the committee's time if it's something that's already resolved. But it occurs to me that we are a committee, we're taking public input. We hope to have 500 people or more, or 1,000 respond on this. But through that, we are learning what is of interest, what's popular, what are people's aspirations and concerns about open space and parks and recreation facilities throughout the city. I do not recall in our discussions with MAPC or amongst ourselves as a committee where we have, in a very determined way, said that, and we're going to meet with the cemeteries committee or the Stage 4 advisory committee, or there are a number of other related committees, the traffic committee as it relates to cycling and pedestrian safety. And there are certainly departments within the city government. So we could come up with these really terrific ideas that could be dead on arrival because they are so out of whack with what the health department is thinking, or what the public works is thinking, or the city council is thinking. And so I was just wanted to pitch the idea of some sort of engagement, perhaps one-on-one interviews with individual representatives from select departments and committees, commissions, boards, towards making sure that the open space and recreation plan that we're working on is informed by their inputs and their realities, so that we're not too pie in the sky and not grounded in what the challenges of the city departments and the other boards and commissions, or the great ideas of those bodies as well. So thank you for hearing me out.
you're welcome. And thank you for your thoughtful comments and recommendations and sort of a global view of something where, again, like if there's targeted outreach for just saying, please fill out our survey, I'm envisioning like certain people being assigned or volunteering for, you're going to be the go-to person for this committee or commission or city department. Because when we don't know what the other people are doing, or I feel like we're stronger together, and we want our time to be valued, and we want what we're doing to be valued. This is to say that if we make recommendations about cycling lanes and we know that's not going to happen, or like that's always off the table because of parking restrictions, then people can make recommendations all they want about multi-purpose paths between Rockport and Gloucester. But it's like, I don't know, I think that ideas are good, but we are working within an infrastructure, or we have limitations. And so does anybody else want to comment on Dan or have any questions for this concept, or has it been like this at other times on the committee, Noel, or anybody else with other experience?
I think Dan has a good point. I mean, when we get to the point of making our recommendations, we certainly should be informed about restrictions that might not work.
I think Dan brings up a really good point of, and again, the biggest challenge in what you've identified is, who's a stakeholder, or who are the bodies that you think it's appropriate to gain feedback from? Because like you said, it could be you develop your set of of priority action items, and then you look for a response to that, and maybe it's in response to that people can say, well, what did you think about, or did you think about this, or this? So I'm wondering whether or not in the process, is it encouraging people to participate in survey, start to have that discussion about priority actions, and I agree with you. This should be something that's a little bit aspirational as well, to really. And if you don't have, city council is every 2 years, planning boards are every 5 years, conservation, but they are also, they're a part of the implementation. And so, getting their perspectives and thoughts on things, I think is important to have that now, rather than just, being it, kind of insular just to the committee itself. So maybe it's something that we can develop, some response, and, sending it to particular boards and hoping that maybe they'll put it on their agenda, in this late summer, fall, that it can be presented to them to get feedback on it. As we get a little bit closer to a draft, or to, what those priority actions might be.
Greg, if I may, I didn't quite understand. Were you suggesting, when you said send it to these boards and committees, were you talking about the draft plan, or are you talking?
Well,
about,
I think as things are
question?
starting to shape up, it would be, as we get beyond kind of like the inventory, the what we know, and then the kind of where are we going here,
Right.
Somewhere in that, later time frame of maybe August, September timeframe, that there's some additional outreach beyond just, just the survey and the second form.
Okay.
Can I just say briefly that I was very pleased to see that there was a mention of climate change, global warming in the survey. And I don't know how that's going to influence the answers we get. I suspect not by very much, but I think it's something we should all be thinking about.
Thanks, Noel. And I see Mark has his hand raised. And Dan, did you want to make another comment after that, or I didn't see it?
I'll see tomorrow.
I just wanted to let everybody know that if you look at that sign up sheet, and the bottom of the sign up sheet, it has all those groups that Dan was referring to. They're all listed right there. And again, but that's just the survey. I think what I interpreted Dan's comment as to more of meaningful discussions and really understand networking versus just, those groups go out and do the survey, right? It's a real healthy discussions on that side.
Yes. If an individual who sits on the Dogtown Advisory Committee finishes the survey, then we have a data point of 1 of 500 individuals who's responding to this. But it seems that having some sort of conversation that helps our committee and in the Dogtown Advisory Committee come into some sort of alignment. And if we're aspiring to things that aren't consistent with that committee, then we ought to explain that, or we ought to try to, be aligned. But, just a quick list of, of our relevant committees and boards, the cemeteries, Clean City, Community Preservation, Conservation, Disability Rights, Dogtown Preservation, Economic Development, Cultural Council, Historic Commission, Historic Planning Board, the Planting Board, or Planting Committee, Stage Fort Advisory, Tourism, Traffic, Waterways, Zoning Board. These are all, it's a lot, but they're all involved in some way in their, in their advisory or their regulatory roles in something to do with open space. And we, in our previous meetings, we've been talking about the need to be better informed. And this is kind of the other side of the coin, where, we're having to engage with them in an official way to say, we're doing this plan, and it bumps into some of the stuff, maybe in just a small way, but it bumps into some of the stuff you're doing.
Oh, is land use?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt, but it's issues of land use, and I think everybody cares about that.
And Dan, yeah, Dan, you mentioned like twice as many that are on that spreadsheet. So before you forget, go write them all down on the spreadsheet tonight.
Well, I've written
There's twice as
them
many
down.
committees that you just said that were on that sheet.
Yeah, well, I would go on to say, and I would seek input from Greg and, and the city staff and the committee about the departments that should be engaged, the assessor, community development, council on aging, fire department, harbor master, health, police, public works, schools, shellfish, treasurer, veteran services. I don't know if they're all appropriate. And if our work bumps into all of them, and it needs some expert advice from knowledgeable city staff to really maybe draw that list down so that we're not wasting their time or ours. But add to that the council members and the mayor's office, and we've got a very full summer. But it would I have developed a document. I sent it to Heidi. I don't know if she's had time since her holiday to look it over. It's just a 2-pager. It lists these departments, and I started a list of questions that we might ask just to kind of open the conversation. But I didn't know if we'd have the opportunity in today's meeting to broach this and see if it's worth further development. So thank you for hearing me out, and I would be happy to work on this further, and maybe perhaps if it pleased the committee, I could write up a proposal for how this would proceed. We could refine that and kind of fit it into the timeline, into the plan development timeline, and focus it as good as possible before embarking on it. It would require, I think it would require some support from from Greg and Adrian and Gemma to kind of pave the way amongst the other departments, and kind of get the mayor to support our engagement with the departments.
I would just like to say thank you for that, the work that you did. And also, one of my goals at one of my first meetings as chair was to increase communication between departments and committees. So it feels like it's not exclusively about the plan, the survey, but it's in service to the plan. And so I think that it can be beneficial for everybody. And maybe it's that initial investment of time, energy, which of course we don't want to waste, but that lets people know. I mean, for me, it was introducing myself and the committee, saying we're reconvening, and we're like to all the city councilors to give, so that when an issue comes up that may have to be about open space and recreation, they know to come, or hopefully they can say, oh, wait, I wonder what open space thinks, because I want to be mindful of the information. I don't remember what it was about traffic commission, but not to offer opinions on things without being asked first. Volunteer groups not offering opinions or advice when you haven't been solicited. But it feels a little bit like, well, we got to start somewhere. So I figured an introduction, a contact, and the contacts have changed on the city website. There's no phone number, there's no email currently. So if people want to reach out to me, they have to figure it out. They could look on Facebook, or they could do what they want. But I think for me, that was my first step. And that how I did was just to introduce myself, acknowledge that, we've been fallow, our committee, for a few months, or we were, and that we have some new members and new initiatives, and we're excited to work together. So this is just a little more organized, and I think it could follow the same model of people picking things that they have an affinity towards, or some of us have more time or energy. Again, acknowledging people's time, and this is a volunteer group. So I want to acknowledge that we have different things we can offer and time restraints, but if we remember that it's in service to the city of Gloucester and the city and the open space and recreation facility, I think that helps me. Like, we're doing this to make things better and to leverage the resources that we are as committed community volunteers, because that's what we all are here, with the exception of our committed city staff. And Noelle, did you want to add to that? Oh, I'm going to say maybe not. Anybody else
So-
have any, or
Yeah, I was thinking, maybe Dan, maybe it might make sense, this outreach to boards, committees, and commissions. If just as a,
Noelle, can you mute, please?
I just muted her. Maybe a first step in this, again, the more detailed conversations, and at what level is that attending a board meeting, one of the other boards, or some ability to try to have one-on-one conversation, which obviously is fairly intensive. But maybe it's, if you've provided something to Heidi that you think makes sense, to kind of like the probing questions that you're thinking of beyond just the survey, maybe that's something that we could, we could certainly do it through the city email system on behalf of the committee. Like, if there are things you want people to be thinking about in the context of this effort and provide their perspective, maybe it's something that we can begin with doing via email. And we could certainly, collect, people's responses to some ideas. And actually, I'm loving that, again, MAPC is here to help, but, the fact that you're coming up with these ideas and the importance of having this more kind of global reach in terms of perspectives in the plan, initiated by the committee is great. I mean, that's, you're not wanting to leave anybody behind to have an opportunity to provide their thoughts about, the process and what it means in Gloucester, but also recognizing that it's not just the open space committee that's an implementer in some of the priorities and strategies that'll come out of it. So maybe that's like a half step, is understanding a little bit more of what your thoughts were. And that's something that we can package along with asking people to participate in the survey. Be another way to get some feedback, maybe beginning with emailed response. And then maybe, again, there's some opportunity later on in the process to have more direct engagement with folks.
Okay, thank you. So I think I understand my task would be to, so I have a document, it's a 2-page document, sort of pitches this idea. And I can send that out to the committee and the staff and seek reactions to it. And then at another meeting, we would have to contemplate whether it's something we wanted to pursue. And it's at that point that it could then work on drafting sort of the transmittal or what you might send or on our behalf out to these various groups. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think just in the interest of time, maybe we'll do, one blast that'll be, participate in the survey. And then if there's something that's a little bit more targeted about perspectives, that can come at a later date. So I think, we can certainly hit them early and often, if it comes at the last week of the survey while it's still out there, we're again reminding people to participate in it. We could do that.
Okay. So I think I understand that you're saying, and I think appropriately, this idea of interviewing representatives of city departments and boards and commissions is appropriately separate from the survey campaign.
Yeah.
And
Distribution.
And it would be informed by maybe the initial feedback from that. So we have some time for some further development of the sorts of information that we might be asking the departments, boards, and commissions.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much to everyone for hearing this idea. And I will share the sort of the straw man document that I developed so that you can see what I'm thinking, and I seek your improvement of it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions about this past topic and the survey? I think we were pretty extensive about that, which leads to timeline. I've got a, oh, great, thank you.
So we had Courtney kind of update the same graphic that was on the OSRP or the OSRC page. So we're kind of in this kind of launching of survey and participation through the survey. And so we've definitely kind of recognized that we're going to slide into the fall. And I think that's, again, the timeline on this is really is yours. And so, you know, if there's, to kind of Dan's, you know, kind of outline of additional engagement, I think, you know, at this point, time is on our side. So, you know, we can definitely take an opportunity, perhaps in the fall, to do, you know, some more of this targeted outreach. But for right now, you know, it's kind of a late fall. You know, we're hoping to have a draft and something to work on in late summer to early fall, to start to go through the you know, kind of priority and goal setting. And that public forum, again, I think is also going to be targeted for, you know, something later. Looks like a September timeframe. So we definitely have shifted from, you know, where we were. You know, a lot of this has to do with the environment that we're in. I believe Courtney is actually moving back to Massachusetts this week. So he's been working entirely remotely from out of state for quite some time. So hopefully that will also, you know, kind of better connect us as we try to, you know, get more of the information down on paper for people to react to.
I'm just noticing these dates are not correct. Is that, or are they?
August 6th.
Yeah, okay, good.
Survey
Survey.
closes.
Yeah, I think, again, it slid a little bit more. So
Yep.
I'll have them tighten that up again.
Okay. Great. Any questions or clarifications needed on this here? If I have a question just about this website here. If we wanted to put more stuff, information, you know, I was thinking like a monthly update. I would send that to you and you would upload it, or how does a committee put something on the website, the city website?
Yeah, I mean, if you know, we can certainly modify and upload the page. You know, typically something, you know, if you wanted to draft something that you wanted to add to the site, it'd be great for, you know, the committee to say, yes, that's our update, and then we could certainly make a location for it to go up.
My very hip and tech savvy daughter gave me a hard time about this webpage. She's like, Mom, you got to do something about that webpage. It's terrible. So, I mean,
yeah, the structure of it is, you know, the provider that we use for the city website, it's very widget based. It's not, you know, we've definitely had situations over the years where we've used an outside vendor for a certain website. From an IT perspective, it's frowned upon because, you know, at some point the website dies or somebody's not updating it. But, you know, to the extent that you want to get involved in, you know, the presentation of the committee, we can certainly make changes to the website.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what the traffic is to this, but I do know that I looked at some of the other commissions and board or volunteer commissions, and it's similar. So I understand the limitations, and maybe this is a good segue into social media. I don't know, any other comments or questions about the timeline? All right, well, I'm gonna do something that's a little different, and it's a brain break, because when you sit and look at a screen, everybody needs a break. So here we go. We're just gonna play like a quick round of rock, paper, scissors. So I'm gonna say rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and you're gonna try to beat me. So I hope you all know this. If you beat me, you win, and if you lose, then I win. So we'll do 3 rounds here. So ready? Here we go. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ooh, I'm out. All right, 2 more rounds. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, I got Greg. All right, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, come on, Greg. Oh, Greg's out. He's not playing. Oh, I play all 3 rounds. So awesome. I hope you weren't thinking about open space and recreation when you were doing that, because that's the point. Okay, so I believe the last item is, or the last item on the agenda is social media update. I'm looking, I've got it, but I have so many windows open. Let's see. Here it is. Thank you, Greg. Oh, Salt Island. Thank you. Salt Island. I'd like to take this out of order just because I've mentioned it with 2 of our other discussion points. So Mark, you brought up Salt Island or asked that to be added, or is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Great. So many of us use social media personally, and the city also has, or the mayor has a social media presence. The city of Gloucester has an official website or official social media presence. When we ask people for information, how do they get information? Social media was like a number 1 or one of the top 2 ways that people get information. So when I look at the website for Open Space and Recreation Committee, I feel like it's kind of plain. It has the information we need. So I thought, well, let's do a social media page. Then I wanted to follow and make sure I was following directions and policy. So I looked for a policy, and I was sent one, but it was not very clear about volunteer boards and commissions. So I reached back out to the city, and I received a really nice response from Chris Cicaranza. Yep. And if I may, I would just like to read what he wrote to me. It says, as of right now, we do not have any formal and finalized policy as it relates to volunteer social media pages and sites, except for the fact that the council has recommended the clerk's office help create guidelines. It's my understanding that as of right now, the clerk's office has temporarily paused the creation of any new pages. This may have changed, so I'll circle back on that. I do want to share that we are establishing new Gmail accounts for each board, commission, or committee, and more information on how to best communicate internally and externally is being developed against this improved system. We expect this to be online in approximately September. With all this being said, if there are specific news items that you'd like to share, I'd be happy to share them on your behalf via the mayor's page or other city pages. So I thought that was a thoughtful response, and also it seemed like, again, I want to follow the directions, or I want to follow the policy, and I also want to disseminate information. For the survey, I have in the past, or another forum, I think I reached out to Val Gilman. This is using my personal Facebook page, but I want to have boundaries. And I guess that's really my comment or question about this. And that's why I reached out before I just said, oh, I'm going to link my an open space Instagram page to my Instagram page. I'm not sure that that's the best idea. I reached out to Beverly's Open Space and Recreation Committee, and it's an official and a City of Beverly page. They created it. Or administrators of to that, but so right now that's what I have. Whoop. It just said my connection is unstable.
Yeah, you were a little delayed for a second, but we've got
All
you.
right. Well, it's probably a signal to stop talking. So so that's where we're at. I have not started an Instagram or a Facebook page that says Gloucester Open Space and Recreation Committee. And I guess but I will continue to post links to the survey, for instance, links to any public meetings on my personal page. So I know, yeah, so comments, questions?
Yeah, I would just add, so this has come up quite a bit over the years. You know, one of the things that we very often do is use the mayor's page, it's the official, you know, city page. We also can, another place that we would do this is also in the news flash when we announce the survey through the city website. Again, just a number of different ways to plug things. Social media is a challenging one. You know, I think the website is something that is typically, you know, more used by boards, committees, and commissions. And again, it's not the most robust website in terms of what you can do with it, but to the extent that you want to keep it fresh and live, like you had talked about, you know, potentially with an update or that type of thing. Other information that you want to provide links to, you know, I can get you information also on users and hits. And I can tell you that Gloucester Beaches is the #1 page that gets hit on the City of Gloucester website. And social media is a little bit delicate too, because what can happen is if you create a committee page, someone provides a comment, and then you start getting into a discussion on an item or responding to it, it becomes the issue of a potential serial meeting or even a meeting that's not even you know, being announced or conducted. So it is tricky. I'd be interested to see what comes out of that. Again, this has come up in the past where I believe there was one that was created and then dissolved because of that issue. And it becomes, you know, and the other potential option is, you know, if there's the ability to create a page without comment, which kind of defeats the social aspect of it, because you don't know if people are engaging or not, unless the only thing that they have the ability to do is either like, dislike, or, you know, whatever it might be that's posted. So I think it's I think it's a good approach to kind of wait and see a little bit more of what comes out there. And I guess I should take a look at the Beverly Open Space page and see what that looks like. You know, there are some that are a little bit more sometimes department pages. You know, there is a Public Works page that disseminates information about water main breaks, paving projects, diversions, and that type of thing that hits a lot of people and really serves a good purpose. Not that an open space, you know, kind of discussion, you know, place wouldn't be useful, but it's just that, you know, that careful, you know, consideration of deliberation on things and who gets to post to it, and sometimes it can just kind of spin out of control a little bit. Hate to be a downer.
No, not at all. Or no, I think you're being realistic. And
But recognizing at the same time, like you said, that is how people are getting their information. So, you know, we can certainly, you know, when there are things that are of importance, we can certainly try to promote through newsfeed on the website, which, you know, is pretty far reaching as well. Everybody that subscribes to the city website gets a text message that says, you know, open space update or whatever it might be. So there's value there. And then obviously, you know, the mayor's Facebook page, you know, city page, I think it's at the limit of subscribers to it. So it's pretty far reaching. And then anything that's on there, I think you're welcome to obviously share on your own media just to disseminate information. But it's really the generator and where it lives is kind of a little bit more something that we have to think about.
Any other comments or questions about this very hot topic? All right, moving on. Our last agenda item is Salt Island. And member Mark Poulin just asked if we could include that because it's been in the news and it is technically not, it is not owned by the city of Gloucester, but it is definitely a part of our identity. And Mark, would you like to?
Yeah, I wanted to add that, it is listed 3 times in the open space plan, one under the Essex County Greenbelt inventory, obviously of private properties greater than 5 acres with no level of protection. So that's sort of where it resides in the inventory. It's also listed as a natural habitat. But last but not least, it actually showed up as, like one of the favorite places. So that must have been something from the last survey. So I know there's probably not much to talk about. I did want to, there is a neighborhood group that formed called Save Salt Island. They have a Facebook page called Save Salt Island. I think they're being very prudent right now as to not, and cautious not to speculate on anything. I think they're doing the right thing there. It is still with the Conservation Commission on July 21st. It was a continued hearing from after the fact RDA that came in front of them. So there is nothing, in front of them at the moment. I mean, in front of, too alarmed about, but I mean, people are reading through the lines, right? And so I think, the group that's formed is very, very knowledgeable. I think it's a much broader group than, say, Save Our Shores was ever. They've some some connections with Friends of Good Harbor and some other groups. They want to make this not about immediate homeowners and abutters that are going to have their view disturbed. They want to try to broaden the idea that this is a Gloucester special place. And so if you look at what they're putting on their website, on their Facebook page, they're just putting nice photos of things. And right now, they're not putting anything, defamatory or, in that regard. So that's really what they're doing. I've zoomed in on a couple of their calls, and it's sort of a wait and see. So, and Dave, of course, you're on the commission. You maybe add some more if you want, but that's what I had.
Well, it's an important piece of property, and this isn't the first time that people have tried to save Salt Island, and it's almost like a Halloween movie. It keeps coming back, and there's a Save Salt Island 13, and I hope that eventually we get there. Personally,
Right.
The Conservation Commission's hands are somewhat tied with this RDA, and it'll be interesting to see what response the applicants have, at the next meeting. But if this were a Facebook thing more like dislike, I'd give it a thumbs down. But I'm kind of limited by what the rules and regulations are as being a Conservation Commission member and what the rules and regulations are. And it's up to citizens groups to change rules and regulations. It's not up to the policeman to write the rules and regulations in our society. So if people want, greater protection for Salt Island, they should perhaps create, different rules and regulations that we can enforce. And that's it.
July 21st.
Yeah, tell us again. So July 21st is the Conservation Commission meeting?
It's a continuation of the RDA hearing, and it was a bunch of questions and sort of go-dos for the owner. I think Dave probably knows more. He's come back, a bunch of questions were asked by the commission, and he's going to respond to them.
Mhm. I remember a few years ago, there was an offer, or like a group asked the city to buy it. And I think I remember the price was, I think, $350,000. And I thought like, oh my God, that's a bargain. And somebody else was like, what? That's too much money. And I thought, I don't know how much an island costs, but it seemed like that's a price that's priceless for me as a Gloucester citizen. And I don't spend a lot of time out there, but when I do, and when I see it, currently I'm a piping plover volunteer. So I'm at Good Harbor Beach every morning from 7 to 8 a.m. Just a little plug for the open space on Good Harbor Beach. That's not just for us, but for our animal friends as well. But that space is really important to me. And so unfortunately, I will not be able to attend that meeting, but thank you. So anything else about Salt Island or about that issue, Conservation Commission? I don't know. Mark, do you have anything else that?
No, it's just like I said, it's probably just a wait and see. I know the citizens group has a whole bunch of concerns listed, which they're going to raise at the Conservation Commission meeting with respect to ground, water pollution and things with goats and all the issues around goats and things like that. And the work that's happening, they have the proper order of conditions or whatever they need. They need, do they have to do an NOI or something? Is that the next step or something? So it's a process that has to play out with public hearing, and if you're concerned, I think people should join, dial in.
I guess the only thing I would add, I think it's, it's an interesting topic to bring up in terms of, one of the things that can occur with an open space plan. I think, a better understanding of the places that people go and look at, and whether they're city owned or not, or protected or not, that has real relevance. I think it's a little bit unfortunate that the city owned that site at one point and sold it. And then, it came up for sale again. And again, the Friends of Good Harbor Beach, as well as Greenbelt, were involved in trying to acquire it. And they just couldn't come. So,
Well, thanks for getting it on the agenda, because I think sometimes that's even just important to bring, like, part of what I understand our mission is to identify projects, challenges, aspirations that we identify as people, boots on the ground, to use Noel's phrase. We know and love these open spaces and recreational places of Gloucester. And so there's this administrative piece, and then there's the hey, this is happening. How do we help protect or preserve or steward? How do we bring these disparate groups together in the service of Gloucester? And I know I've said that before, but I think just getting it on there, the climate change piece that Noel mentioned, that's very important to me, that is really a big part of our awareness in, I think, frankly, in every department of the city, because kind of like Dan said, open space and recreation impacts, I think, almost all that list. I think people walk on sidewalks. Not everybody goes to Good Harbor Beach or Stage Fort Park, but it is it's really important. So, and while we do have limited power, we do have power, and we have advisory capacity. And I think that's really important to remember. So, okay. That was the last item on our agenda. Is there any other business that did not that did not come up that anybody would like to add on, or any questions or clarifying next steps? I know we didn't have next meeting on the agenda. So I know there was some talk too about a later start time for one of our members, and but I think, so it's July 7th. Greg, can you help out with when our next meeting would be, or a next like
Yeah,
everybody?
I don't know if it should,
together?
if it makes sense to wait until, well, I mean, I guess there's two options. There's one to meet shortly after the close of survey. But if there, if there's some movement on, the outreach piece that you want to reconvene on, that's something that, can be set up. I am away the last week of July. But if that's too soon, or that seems to be a week that you want to meet in a couple of weeks to kind of revisit the discussion item on additional outreach, because again, it's something, if it's going to happen, you need to prepare for it and discuss it and have, a strategy for it. My guess is that, from MAPC standpoint, they probably would look for a meeting post survey. So that would probably be like, maybe the second or third week in August. So if you wanted to meet in advance of that, we can certainly set this all up if it's really kind of more of a discussion among the members as well. If I can't be there, we can certainly facilitate that. The other thing to be thinking about too is if you do want to shift to something a little bit later, then we just want to make sure, like, as Adrian and I and Gemma are committed to meetings, in particular, she's usually, two Wednesdays a month. She has a meeting, as well as Dave. So, if it makes sense to try to, target something a little bit a different day maybe, or if you want to move later, that's something we can do too.
Okay, you said a lot, so I'm going to
Yep.
do my best to tell you what I heard. And also, it sounds like our next official meeting should be, or to kind of look at, we'd be looking at the results, because they'll be right there,
Yep.
with Courtney and possibly Mark from
Yep.
MAPC. And that would be in the beginning, like the first 2 week, like the middle of August.
I'd
or
say
no- yeah.
mid-August. Yep.
Okay, so middle of August. If we would like to reconvene, maybe for a discussion or a subgroup of people who are interested in, or subcommittee, some people who are interested in the outreach of which Dan spoke, which I just want to confirm that it's separate from the survey. It's more like a concept and initiative. I'll call it an initiative.
Networking. Yeah.
Yeah, networking. And so I feel sometimes like the smaller groups can, be successful in getting some stuff done and then reporting back. So that can happen without the city members present, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. And so if you are interested in that, Dan, can I volunteer you to be sort of the point person for that aspect of this initiative? Like,
Certainly, yes.
okay. I mean, and of course you can CC me as well,
Of course.
or include me, because it's important to me. It's really one of my main focuses as chair. So, and then the potential meeting time, we could shift to a different day. A later time does work. Honestly, it works better for me too. 4 o'clock is not, I prefer 5.
Those were COVID hours.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of shift to committee work in the late afternoons, because
Okay.
what else
Yeah.
were you going to do?
Yeah. Got it. So those are sort of what I heard you say, and I guess I just want to say, I will send something out. I will send something out with meeting preferences. I don't know all of the city meetings, like when there's like you said, Wednesdays, 6, like,
And I'll start by doing that. I'll
Okay.
give you a sense of what we're committed to,
great.
and the opportunities that we try to, keep available for other meetings that we need to go to. And I'm
Terrific.
also saying, like, if you want to meet as a subcommittee, I think between the three of us that have been kind of working with you, somebody should be able to attend.
Great.
And if you are going to do a subcommittee, just think about that organization now. You typically would have a 3-member subcommittee.
Okay.
So that, we would set it up kind of in the same vein until there's a decision on whether we go back to face-to-face meetings. We would probably conduct it in this type of forum where you can make it available for all the committee members. You just have to recognize them all if they do attend. But otherwise, if it's just a 3-member group, we would set it up with 3 of you as panelists, and then again, the public will be able to participate as well and hear your discussion.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for that. Well, I just want to acknowledge people's commitment to the group, to the process, the patience and need for flexibility with not only remote meetings, transitioning out of remote meetings, hopefully in the future, we'll be in person meeting together. But for now, this is what we have to work with. And also with the changes of the dates and the survey and things needing to be, the timeline is changing. So I just want to acknowledge that we have resources that are helping us and supporting us, not dictating what we're doing, but I feel like it's a partnership that is beneficial. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you all for your presence and the work you've done outside of these meeting times. So
Do we have to meet, can subcommittee, doesn't have to meet on Zoom, or how, what's the?
For now, I
No.
think we would have to, just because the administration has not identified that we're going to be using public spaces for face-to-face meetings yet. That may change soon, but I mean that's the directive
Okay.
we've been given as staff. We'll probably be discussing it again next week. So if that changes, there may be the ability to do that. I think I heard Heidi and Dan were interested in a potential subcommittee on outreach. Is there a third person that would participate in that?
I'll do it, I'll help.
So typically, just Robert's rules, you should do a motion to create a subcommittee on outreach, and have somebody chair that, and that could be Dan if it's kind of his initiative, and then do a roll call approving it. And then as you move forward and you want to, set a meeting, you just contact us and we'll set it up.
okay, yes, Dan.
I will move to form a subcommittee of the Open Space and Recreation Committee for the purpose of developing and implementing a engagement plan to advance our open space and recreation plan.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, and I will do a roll call vote. See how I do here. Member Mann,
Unmute.
I think you were unmuted and you muted.
I'll come back to Noel.
Yep.
Noel, you are muted. So member Anastasia Murphy. Oh,
Now I'm unmuted. I say aye.
yes, excellent.
Aye.
Member Sargent,
Yes.
member Poulin,
Yes.
member Morris,
Yes.
And do I vote?
Yeah.
Yes?
Mhm.
Member Wakeman, yes. Chairwoman
Okay.
Wakeman.
There you go.
Great. Thank you for that, Robert's
Sure.
Rules of Order reminder. And I guess I will also just say, take a look at that Excel. Take a look at that Excel spreadsheet. We will resend the email with, I believe that email has a link to the survey that we can share and that spreadsheet with the community organizations and contacts. Does that sound right?
Yes, but double check, sorry, let me get back on here, sorry. He posted it as an attachment. Make sure it's the SharePoint link, so you can update it real time, like on Google Docs or whatever it is. Not the one that I think he posted an attached Excel spreadsheet on one of his emails.
Yeah. That's with the contact people,
Yeah. Just
okay.
But if you're gonna sign up for anything or add institutions to it, it has to be on the SharePoint one.
Yeah. And I invite people to do as much as they can, knowing that many hands make light work, and also find the people that you already know. Find the people and community members that you already know, and then that makes it a little bit easier. So, okay. Well, I am going to ask for a motion, seeing as there's no further business, a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Second.
Oh, wait, you have to make the motion. I can't make the motion, or I don't think I can make the motion. I think somebody needs to make the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. And I do not believe we need a roll call to adjourn a meeting. At CPC or Community Preservation Committee, we do not.
We usually do it.
Oh, we usually do it? Oh, goodness. Okay, I'll try it again. All right. Member Morris,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Poulin,
Yes.
Member Mann,
Yes.
Member Anastasia Murphy,
Yes.
and Member Wakeman. Yes. Okay.
A little
this-
bit like the sound of music, so long, farewell.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And please
Okay.
reach out if we
Bye-bye.
have any questions. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
Nice to see you. Bye-bye.